We interrupt this regularly scheduled podcast to bring you important news.
We got a big broadcast to do here.
We're about to dial it up.
This is the 5th-seeded Memphis Grizzlies former head coach, Taylor Jenkins, who was fired on Friday with only 9 games left in the season. Memphis had battled injuries and has had 21 different starting lineups, including John Morant missing around 30 games this year. The Grizzlies have struggled against teams over 500. They're only 11-20 against those teams. League sources are shocked, and general manager Zach Kleiman said it was his sole decision. Errol, dial it up.
Taylor Jenkins is a good coach. I do not understand. At the end of the season, a team that is a playoff contender, you're firing your coach at the end of the season. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't put them in good position as they move on to the playoffs when they have to compete against the top teams in the Western Conference. And you need a guy that's successful, a guy that understands the game as good as Taylor Jenkins. Here's the thing. We were talking about where did the Knicks go if they fire Tom Thibodeau. Well, Taylor Jenkins is going to be available at the end of the season, and it really depends on how far the Knicks go. And by the way, there are a lot of top teams right now in East and the West that have losing records against 500 teams. It's not just the Grizzlies, the Knicks. I mean, the Celtics are like 500 right now, a little bit over 500. All these teams have problems beating, obviously, top teams in the East and the Western Conference. So I'm not going to take shots at Taylor Jenkins. I think it's a terrible move by the Grizzlies. It just shows you how incompetent the organization is.
Yeah, I don't know genuinely what goes into this decision. This really mirrors the same decision or the same situation as last season with the whole, I can't remember the head coach that was fired from the Bucks. I don't know if anybody wants to.
Oh, Adrian Griffin.
Adrian Griffin, yeah, when he got fired.
Except Jenkins more established.
Exactly. That's even what's weirder, more weird of a situation. The fact is that it's clear that with Griffin that things were obviously going on backstage behind the scenes, and this is clearly going to be the same case. And you look at the starting five, and a lot of the team that's really with the Grizzlies, John Morant, Desmond Bane, a lot of these guys really are the ones that. And any of the success that they've had over the past few years has really gelled underneath Jenkins' tenure as the coach. And he's the one that's kind of got these guys all to play together and all around the same kind of core. So it's honestly just at most astonishing.
And by the way, just so everybody knows, John Morant actually, after this was announced, put a post up on his Twitter account, how upset that the organization did this. So that just spells a lot of problems in the offseason, especially a superstar player like that, and you're firing their coach at the end of the season when your team's a playoff contender. Big mistake, and that's why the Grizzlies could be out in the first round, as they've been every single year, back-to-back years. I think it's been back-to-back years. The Memphis Grizzlies haven't gotten out of the first round.
Yeah, really curious. Not as curious, this next move. Yes, this is 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, who has been unlikely to being traded this offseason, mainly because no one's going to take him because he just signed a huge contract and tore his ACL and MCL. His roster bonus is going to kick in on Tuesday for $22.85 million. And if something doesn't change radically by tomorrow's deadline for this bonus, he's going to be with the 49ers most likely for the entire season of 2025. Again, he signed a 4-year, $120 million extension before last season. Errol, dial it up.
I like Brandon Aiyuk. He's coming back from an injury. I expect him to have a very good season. Brock Purdy's going to get a new contract before the season even starts. He's going to need the number one guy. I mean, George Kittle, we'll see if he stays healthy. I do believe Christian McCaffrey is going to open up the offense this year if he stays healthy. And Brandon Aiyuk is one of the best route runners in the league. Now obviously, he just had a torn ACL. I expect him to be explosive this year as well as he was when obviously Deebo Samuel was out for a significant amount of time. He is the number one guy. He's going to be the number one target. And I expect him to be very, very explosive. I don't care about the money. If he's going to put up the numbers, and as long as he puts up 1,300 yards this year and gives you about 9 or 10 touchdowns, which I believe he will if he stays healthy, it's going to be all worth it. And I question the 49ers in a division that's so wide open and what the Rams did in the offseason, but I still believe they have the most talent. We'll see how Kyle Shanahan handles that pressure. So, but I think Brandon Aiyuk's going to be fine. I think it's a good move keeping him.
See, I disagree. I think Brandon Aiyuk, even before he got hurt last year, had struggles with drops. He has struggles with effort. He's the same guy that Debo was at the end of his tenure at the 49ers. I think they need to get rid of this contract. They need to get a draft pick like the Browns, like traded to the Browns or the Chiefs that need a receiver. Brandon Aiyuk is not a guy you want on your team as a leader in the wide receiver room.
You're out of your mind.
And I'm not.
You're out of your mind.
I'm not out of my.
You're losing
Dude.
it. You don't want Brock Purdy. He's got the best.
don't.
He's a top 7 quarterback in the league. You don't want Brandon Aiyuk. Before he tore his
wanna
ACL, he gets a big contract. He was one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league. It makes no sense. How do you hate on your
Brandon Aiyuk
players?
was a top
You love
3
Kyle Shanahan and you don't like your players.
Not a chance. Brandon
wants
Aiyuk's
the
not
door.
even a top 10 receiver in the league, and he's
What's
getting
the
paid
door?
like he's number 5 receiver. It's terrible. 49ers are going to make it. They're going to trade him. They'll probably sign Brock Purdy, and then they'll get a higher draft pick, trade with the Browns or somebody like that.
You're on drugs. Do you know why?
Because he's a below average.
No, because Deebo Samuel was their number 1 guy. He was their wide receiver and running back before Christian McCaffrey was there. And to say that Brandon, I'll bet you guys. I'll bet you whatever you want. Bet money. Brandon Aiyuk has over 1,300 yards this year, if healthy, and 10 touchdowns. Bet me now. Bet me now.
I bet you right now.
Bet me now. Bet me
I
now.
bet you 10 grand.
Are you going to bet me 10 grand right now? You're going to bet
That
10
he
grand?
has over
You're going to start
1,300 yards?
1,300 yards this year, if healthy, and 10 touchdowns. And 10 touchdowns.
Oh, okay, so there's stipulations.
He has to stay healthy,
He's not
yeah.
going to stay healthy.
Yeah,
He's got a
okay.
bum
Now you're
ACL.
saying he's not going to stay healthy. If he plays 16 games.
I don't know if he starts the season with him. ACL, MCL, you know?
They're saying
He's
that
gonna
he's
start the
healthy.
season with him,
They're
and then
saying
he'll
he's
probably
healthy.
Come back
So
around week 8.
It was week 7, I think, that he tore it.
they're saying he's
It's a little
healthy. He'll be
tough
ready
to
for
come
this.
back that fast.
They're saying he's going to be ready for the season, and he'll be ready. So that's what they're saying.
Okay, well, I'll take my 10 grand.
If he
I'll
stays
be fine
healthy
with
and he
that.
plays 16
All right.
games, I'll bet you. I'll go with the $10,000.
Hey, so but
16
if he-
games.
But if he
He will play if he
stays
plays
healthy,
10,
what does that
16
mean?
games. If he plays 16 games, he will have 1,300 yards and 9 to 10 touchdowns. That's what I think. So, whatever way you want to, wherever you want to go with that, you can go with that.
He's
16
first
games.
of all, never had 9 or 10 touchdowns in a season.
But right now, he is the number 1 guy. Are you gonna? Who's their number 2 guy right now? Pearsall. Good job. Good luck. Good luck on that. He's a young player that never even played a full season
Hey,
as an NFL player.
just
And
to-
they have George Kittle, old
just
man
to
George, who
prove my
never
point,
stays
last
healthy
year
back-to-back years.
Before he got hurt last year, he had a 37-yard game, a 47-yard game, a 37-yard game, and a 42-yard game.
Mm-hmm.
Those are stats that are going to just real add up.
Okay.
That was when he was healthy.
Okay, I'll remember you said that. That's all
I
I'm
think
gonna
Brock Purdy likes throwing to Ricky Pearsall a lot, so I would guess he's going to
And Jennings is his favorite target,
Stop
is Jennings.
this.
Well,
with the Jennings
Well, I
crap.
think Jennings got the targets because Ayuk wasn't there. Personally, I think Jennings is really good, but you're going to have him opposite
You'll
side
see.
of Ayuk on the field. That's not a bad
We'll
luck.
see.
It's not a bad luck. Hey, we got another really good one. This one's near and dear to my heart as a former Rangers coach over here. Gets fired from the Philadelphia Flyers. Yes, that's John Tortorella. Torts. After a huge blow-up with defenseman Cade York. The Flyers parted way on Thursday with embattled head coach John Tortorella. Reports are the firing took place after a heated argument with defenseman Cade York that led to his benching for most of the game in Tuesday's loss in Toronto. The Tortorella and the Flyers were 1-10-1 prior to his dismissal and have missed the playoffs each of the 3 years that he was the coach in Philly. Errol, dial it up.
I love John Tortorella, but he weighs out his welcome every 5 years. He's a head coach. No matter where he goes, Rangers, Vancouver, the guy just can't sit still. Tampa. I mean, he won a Stanley Cup with Tampa, but he goes to Vancouver. He was there with Vancouver, 2 years?
2 years, I think.
When he gets in a struggling argument with some of his players and other players from other locker rooms and threatens to kill them. I mean, the guy doesn't know how to control himself, obviously. He's a great coach. He teaches defense better than anybody in the NHL, still to this day. The problem with him is he's one of those hotheads that he'll go into the press conferences, he'll tell you to go F yourself. He won't answer questions. He's the Bill Belichick of the NHL. He just goes out there, speaks and it says what he feels, and when he doesn't want to say what he feels, he says he tells you things that you don't want to hear. So I feel bad for John Tortorella, but he just hasn't been successful with a Philadelphia team that was expected to be a playoff contender this year and has fallen off. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, he's doing well with a lot of these younger teams recently and not doing well with managing player relationships. That was a big problem he had with the Rangers with Chris Kreider. That's why he didn't come up right away. And I think since then he kind of learned from it with Columbus when he was there and even his last couple of years with the Rangers after that. But it still hasn't been something that's carried to these other teams. Vancouver, you mentioned. Brock Besser, he had a problem with. Thatcher Demko, when he came up, had a problem with. And since then, those two have been great since Tortorella's left. And remember last year, or 2 years ago, or last year, the story with the prospect kid, Cutter Gauthier. They didn't want to play there anymore. Got traded to Anaheim. A lot of that had to do with Tortorella as well, and now Cade York, who's one of their better young defensemen. It definitely is not ideal. He's going to have to change his ways if he wants to coach a young team.
He's going to coach again.
Or in a bigger market. I think he will coach again, maybe not next year, but I think a year after or so.
He's going to do what Patrick Waugh did.
It's going to have to be a team that's either in a smaller market or a veteran team like Columbus was when he took that job in 2018.
Watch him go to, like, the AHL. He'll go there for a year, win a championship over there, and then everybody's going to look at him and say, he's the new free agent.
That'll be the ultimate challenge of the AHL. It's all young.
And don't be surprised if the New York Islanders, if they fire Patrick Waugh to bring in somebody like Tortorella, because the Islanders are going to stay veteran as long as Lou Lamoriello stays there.
Yeah,
So
that does seem like a Lou Lamoriello hire if he still is there.
I could see it happening. I could see it happening.
Next story, we go to women's basketball, and it is UConn's star guard Paige Bueckers dropping 40 points on Oklahoma in the Sweet 16. After head coach Geno Auriemma was critical of Bueckers' defensive effort in the first half, she came out and lit up Oklahoma on 16 of 27 shooting, 6 of 8 from 3. She's the likely number 1 overall pick this year in the WNBA draft. This game has just gone final. UConn and Paige Bueckers, she put up another 31 points to beat the Juju-less USC Trojans to go to the Final Four for women's. And here's a quote right here. There are times, this is from Geno Auriemma, says that she could be even better than she is. There are times when she has the ball in the defense and they know she's not going to shoot it. I'm thinking, shoot it if you're open. So hopefully in the fourth quarter, she will just, I don't know, maybe you should talk to her. He was mad that she didn't take over the game. I think she got the message. Errol, newest number 1 pick. Dial it up.
First of all, I love her Nike commercial. It's sensational. Great idea for Nike doing that right now with the Final Four. Thank you, Caitlin Clark, by the way. Paige is one of the best basketball players right now in the world.
Caitlin should be thanking Paige, too, because Paige came and got NIL deals before Caitlin Clark.
It's fine. That's understandable, but Caitlin Clark
She's
is
not as big as Caitlin Clark, but
No.
she was creating NIL deals for women's
That's
basketball.
fine. That's fine.
Before
And
Paige.
Caitlin Clark was the one that opened up the floodgates with Nike, and that's why she has her Nike deal. But nevertheless,
And Gatorade.
yes, I think obviously Paige is right now the best college women's basketball player in the world. UConn knows how to find them, as we all know. I mean, Geno has won how many national championships? He's taking shots at Danny Hurley. It doesn't really matter. The fact is Geno actually knows what he's doing, and what he's doing is he's pushing his best player to play harder because he wants the team to follow her. And Paige is the superstar of the team. When she shows up and she plays well and she does everything right, the whole team is going to follow her lead. That's why he came out and did what he did. All the best players, when it comes down to pressure, they play their best game. And I think Paige obviously shows up in the big part of the game and puts up the big numbers. That's why Geno did it. Very smart move to one of the greatest coaches in college basketball history.
Geno has 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
Now
like
number
7
12.
or 8 in a row when he had the 100 winning streak.
Soon to be number 12, by the way.
Paige Bueckers is much better at basketball than most people, and she's got a great shooter. She's winning. She took over in games, and that's what you want from a girl that's going to go number 1. And expect her to be another name that benefits from this renaissance in women's basketball that started last year, really, in full earnest with Caitlin Clark.
Just so you guys
All right,
know, in the 20 years that Geno has been on top of the women's basketball, in all of sports, Geno's had at the dominance part of his career, 10 of his women have been number 1 picks. 10 of them. So just so you guys know, that's how good of
Not
a
bad.
recruiter he is. So he's a great recruiter.